Greetings, good people, and welcome to episode 9 of Black Women Are Dope AF. This is a storytelling series that I created to reclaim our ancestral mothers' wisdom and amplify the brilliance, the beauty, and the power of Black women, and to remind us just how dope we are. Plus, this will serve as an archive of Black women's leadership throughout humanity's maturing process, our curation process, while dismissing all these stereotypes, all these other people telling Black women who and what we are. It's time for us to look to other Black women, historical Black women, ancestral Black women, to know who we are and to remember who we are. And by archiving our leadership and our stories, we resist the historical and cultural erasure that we see happening today. So if you're down with that and all the other things we do here at Beautiful Powerful Love, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. So this episode, episode 9, we are honoring Sojourner Truth, abolitionist, preacher, truth teller, and spiritual disruptor. So what I'm going to do, the format, if you're new here, the format is that I share a bit about her story. I tell you about her origin story, if you will. And then I'll tell you why I think she's dope. And I say that specifically why I think she's dope because I encourage you to go and learn more about her yourself. Learn more about who she was, what she did, see what nuggets speak to you because there may be different reasons why you think she's dope. But I'm going to share with you what I think. And then at the end, stick around to that because I'll share some tips and some medicine for Black women today that's based on the wisdom that she left for us. Mama Sojourner Truth left for us wisdom, just like all of the ancestral mothers that we talk about and so many more. They left for us a blueprint, a plan, a way to move forward, a way to be who we are authentically that is so needed in this world. So let me not get all up on my soapbox and let's get into it. So Mama Sojourner Truth was born in 1797. At the time, she was born and named Isabella Baumfree, I'm sorry, Isabella Baumfree in Ulster County, New York. She survived enslavement in the North, yes, and although it was different than what it was to be enslaved in the South, it was still brutal. It was still enslavement. Don't romanticize it. Don't think it's anything other than what it was. But she carried with her a West African memory and a divine vision about resisting what she was in. So let's go a little bit further. So her father, James Baumfree, was captured from present day Ghana, likely of Akan or Ashanti origin. And I say present day Ghana because, again, I always say again like we've been in a continuous conversation, but that's what it feels like to me. I talked about Ghana and its road to liberation. I've talked about um, ancestors, male and female, who have supported us and have left a blueprint for us from the liberation of Ghana. If you go back to my ancestral activation series, you can see more about that from Kwame Nkrumah to various other spiritual leaders as well. So let's go forward. So her mother was also of African born, but it's unclear in the records because, they did such a great job of that. I'm being sarcastic. It's unclear where she was from in Africa, but the point is that Sojourner Truth, both her parents were born on the continent. So they had that cellular memory. And I'm almost certain, we can always be certain, that whatever they retained, they taught to her, to some extent at least. But at a bare minimum, the memory of who she was or could have been were it not for slavery was fresh in her DNA because her parents were both born on the continent. And it's not to say that those who are further down descendant um, and whose ancestors for the last several generations were born on this soil are any less potent. But I think it's worth noting that as much as she did for American Black women, she brought that ancestral tie from the motherland with her. Now, this home that she grew up in up until age 9, and we'll talk about all the different times that she was sold, but she was raised in a Dutch-speaking household. So even though she was in the United States, you have to understand things were very different then. And the household that she was enslaved in was a Dutch household. And so speaking Dutch, Dutch was her first language, not her native language that her parents likely spoke, and not English. It was Dutch because that was what the household spoke, the owners, the enslavers, the colonizers here on American land, but they were still Dutch. Look up some of your ancestry. Many of us have some Dutch ancestors as well. But before the age of 13, she was sold at least 3 times, and each time was more violent than the previous. And then finally, when the last time that she was sold, she had spent quite a number of years until her late 20s with one particular slave owner named John Dumont. But at age 9, she was sold to a John Neely. Now, he was English, did not speak Dutch. Now, she grew up in a Dutch household, so all she spoke was Dutch. And he beat her for not understanding English at 9 years old. When we see and understand things like this and really understand what happened to our people in slavery, and I got to take a side note here because current news, there is a white woman, I'm recording this on Saturday, May 3rd. Yeah, I was supposed to do this yesterday, but I'm recording this on Saturday, May 3rd, and just in these last few days and this week, there is a white woman that's making the rounds on social media in this day and age, right now, today, who accosted a 5-year-old autistic Black boy and called him an N-word. And then went on to say, as she's being recorded saying this, that she called him what he was because he took something out of her bag. He is not neurotypical, not to mention he's a 5-year-old child. So she was going after him and calling him all these names, and then went on to put on I forget the name of the platform, but it's the equivalent of GoFundMe. And as of this earlier today, that woman has raised $300,000 from other races who are equally, if not worse than she is, just giving money to her. She is unapologetic. She's saying, yes, this is who I am, and that's what I said, and I said what I said. All of the closet, and maybe not so closeted, white supremacists are coming out of the closet. And it didn't matter that he was 5, didn't matter that he was not neurotypical in terms of his behaviors. These people are what and who they are. But when you again look back to their ancestry, it wasn't any different then. That cellular memory is still there in many of them, and they only have been given the permission to activate it now. All right, divergent over. Coming back to Sojourner Truth. So she was sold to this man at 9 who beat her for not understanding English. Ugh. And then sold again a couple of years later, and then eventually sold to John Dumont. And this again was in New York, and slavery was legal there until 1827. So she labored on farms that produced wheat, livestock, and other goods. So although it wasn't cotton or tobacco or rice or indigo or any of the other crops that were grown in the South, it was still domestic, it was still laboring, it was still agriculture, it was still brutal, it was still slavery. So in 1826, she walked away. She took her baby, her infant, her youngest child, which was a daughter, and walked and left. The deal was because slavery was becoming less and less accepted, and it wasn't illegal until 1827, but her owner, her enslaver, John Dumont, had promised to release her early, had promised to let her go, to give her her freedom, and he reneged. He backed out. He didn't follow through. So she walked away. She took her baby, the one that she could carry in her arms, and she walked away. She went to the home of some Quaker abolitionists, and they paid Dumont $20 to say, okay, we bought her. So they would protect her from being reclaimed. And I think it's important to note that throughout the process of abolitionism, if that's a word, I'm making up things. It's a Saturday night, y'all. But in the process of that, there were people, there were white people, there were people who had skin who looked like our enslavers, but who saw the evilness in what was being done to us and supported us. We need some of that cellular memory to wake up too. I think we see some of it. We need more of that because these colonizers and enslavers are just getting out of control right now. But the Quaker family that she went to, again, they paid the owner $20 so she could literally be free. And then later on, she found out that her son, Peter, who was 5, was sold to a plantation in Alabama. Now, that was illegal at that point. Slavery was being taken out of the legal ranks in New York, and selling of slaves had been illegal. So when she found out that he had been sold, she filed a suit. And she became the first Black woman to successfully sue a white man in U.S. court. She won, and they had to get her baby back. Does that sound like something that's going on right now here today in 2025? Only instead of sending them south, they send them all the way south outside of the country. Her son, again, Peter, was 5 when he was sold. And when he got back, he had suffered so much trauma that he eventually, the relationship between her and him never actually repaired. He never actually got over the things that he experienced in that traumatic, being sold away from his family, from everything that was familiar with him, and into the deep South. So again, even though it was slavery just as bad in the North as it was in the South, it was a whole different type of thing. Just as bad North versus South, but South had its own flavors of horror, and that baby never recovered. So later on, as a teenager, he went and joined a crew as a sailor, and it's unclear what happened to him. Was he trafficked or re-enslaved, tricked into going on this boat and then just sold somewhere else? I mean, things were becoming illegal, but that did not matter to these people because all they saw was a way to make money. And the bond between this mother and the son was never healed. And it can tell us and it shows us the generational wounds of slavery. And they were reunited, within a year. Imagine all the pain that we are carrying with us through epigenetics, through the scientific passing down of trauma from what our ancestors experienced. This has nothing to do with religion. You can practice whatever religion you choose to. But epigenetics is science, unless you just don't believe in science either, which I don't think that's the case because you're here. Okay. So then in 1843, that's when she renamed herself Sojourner Truth. Now, again, she was born Isabel or Isabella. Each time she was sold, they renamed her. They gave her a different name that they wanted her to have. So she never had that consistency until she chose Sojourner Truth. And she chose this because Sojourner, she felt she was called to travel and testify. Her mission was to speak the divine truth that would set captives free, to speak and travel and to preach the word of God. And although she never learned to read or write, her voice was thunderous. She spoke with clarity and with passion. And once people started hearing of the speeches, the words that she spoke, she became one of the most sought after orators, speakers of her time. She preached in churches, conventions, public squares. She did what her name that she gave herself said. She got on the road and she journeyed to preach the truth. In 1851, He went to the Ohio Women's Rights Convention. She wasn't a planned speaker. She just showed up and she did what she did. She rose and she addressed a room full of white feminists who had all excluded Black voices and centered white fragility. Also, sound familiar? Still happening. Feminism was never about all women. It was about white women and a very particular type of white women. Her speech, which was later called Ain't I a Woman, was a confrontation. It was clarity. It was a call to action. She unmasked the lie that femininity belonged to white middle class women in this fragile way of being soft and asking, and the rights will be given to us. And these women at the time, Susan B. Anthony, all of those who were at the forefront of the women's suffrage movement, focused on white women gaining the right to vote and to have any other rights above and beyond and first before Black women. They felt that that was the order things needed to go in. I wonder why. So her story really is important to us because she refused to be erased, even actively as they were actively trying to erase her while she was still here and alive. She made Black womanhood visible, divine, and untouchable, and she walked through hell to do it. She was beaten, abandoned, targeted, but she gave no fucks and she kept going. She counseled presidents. She counseled Abraham Lincoln, reunited families after emancipation. She built a legacy from the work that she did, the words that she spoke. And we give thanks for Sojourner Truth. We give thanks for her courage, for her honesty, for her voice, for her words, for her existence. We give thanks, Sojourner Truth. So now, why do I think she's dope? Listen, she did the damn thing. She transformed enslavement into divine rebellion without apology or permission. She didn't escape quietly. She said, "Oh, we had an agreement and you reneging? I'm walking out." She handled, even from the very beginning, even before she sued him for selling her child, she handled that like a contract. We had an agreement. You reneged. I'm out. Contract null and void. I am no longer your slave. And she then to follow up, suing, testifying, holding the system accountable. The system said, this is how we're going to do things. This thing is illegal. And she challenged the system to put its money where its mouth was. So she got her baby back in 1827. So far ahead of civil rights law. She did that, a Black woman. So that's reason number one why I think she's dope as fuck. She stood up in an environment that you would think she just had to take what she was given and be satisfied that she had gotten her freedom and her baby girl. She said, "No, that wasn't enough. You did something against your own laws. I want my child back." And we give thanks for her for that courage. The next reason I think she's dope as fuck is that she was a radical womanist before the term even existed. She didn't ask to join white feminism. She just showed up and made the room uncomfortable. She just showed up and spoke the truth. You talking all of this womanness and womanness, all of this white, flowery, passive, fragile type of way. But ain't I a woman? I've had to haul loads of wheat and I've had to ride horses. I've had to do things that is back-breaking work. But ain't I a woman? I don't hold up to the standard of being fragile the way these women were talking about. But her point was, I've done all these things. I've been beaten like a man. But ain't I a woman? Listen, she told the white woman, if your feminism doesn't include me, my babies, my burdens, then it's not freedom. Made the room uncomfortable. I just think that's dope. She didn't do it. Oh, we gotta get in and into the systems and then change it from within. How long we been trying that? Nope. Make them uncomfortable, say the things in whatever capacity you are able to. I'm getting on to the medicine now. Let me keep going on why I think she dope. She lived a theology a belief system of resistance. She preached that God stands with the oppressed, not the powerful. Understand that God stands with the oppressed. I don't know where these Christian nationalists got this idea. Well, I mean, I know where they got it from, but I'm just saying this idea of Christianity being all about capitalism, forgetting about the poor, forgetting about the elderly, forgetting about those who need safety, who need protection, who need medical attention, who need nurturing. I don't know what this religion is that they're talking about, that they're pushing, or rather, what this agenda is that they're pushing, that they're wrapping Jesus' name around it. I'm sure Jesus is protesting, but let me not be blasphemous, although they are putting Trump looking like a pope. I know y'all seen that going around. It's ridiculous. But the point is, Sojourner Truth, Mama Sojourner Truth, she spoke the word and did the work, understanding that God is standing with those who are being oppressed, those who are being enslaved, those who are being wronged. And we may be forgetting that now and losing sight of that now, but it's still the truth. We just got to continue doing our part in voicing that. And her sermons weren't just a metaphor or anything like that. They were political theology. It was grounded in African ancestral spirit and Christian fire. She used all of it. Remember when I said that both her parents were born in Africa? Her father was likely a Khan or Ashanti. It's unclear where her mother was from. So she still had that. I'm sure they still spoke to her, whispered to her as a baby where the enslavers couldn't hear. So she received that directly. So that ancestral spirit was with her. But because she was also raised in this environment, she understood Christianity as well. So she had that fire. She had both. Because at the end of the day, spirit, God, it's all one. People just call it different things. And then those who get even further from the root, aka Christian nationalists, I don't even know how they are defining things. But Mama Sojourner Truth, she flipped the scripture. Well, rather, she spoke truth to the scripture. She flipped how the enslavers were doing it. Her scripture that she talked about and spoke about condemned slavery, didn't justify it. And in doing so, this was very different for the people to hear. And it made the people tremble a little bit, like, oh, wait, what's she talking about? And another reason, or the last reason I'll give, and I'd love to hear what are some of the reasons you think she's dope as fuck, but the last one I'll give is that she kept going when the movement didn't. White women erased her voice. White abolitionists tried to control her image. All these white people trying to police a black woman, what she looked like, what she talked like, how she moved. Sound familiar? Still happening. But she kept preaching, she kept traveling, she kept reuniting black families during Reconstruction, even though she was under threat. So when slavery was abolished, there was a brief period where the government, the federal government, supported black people trying to have us, trying to get us back on our feet, trying to have us have a way forward. That is before they pretty much conceded to the Confederates and shielded us going all the way backwards with Jim Crow, and then it just kept going from there, and that's where we are now. But during Reconstruction, there were resources, there were things put in place, there was education. She was able to work collaboratively with folks to bring those families who had just become emancipated back together, helping them to find ones who had been sold years earlier to different plantations or to different states, helping people to come back together. Tell me that's not God's work. Mm-mm-mm. And even while she was grieving her own children, because mind you, I think she had 5 kids. She took one with her, and then there was the one that she sued Peter to get back. There were still other children that she never heard from. They were sold from her almost immediately when she gave birth to them. So understand why this was so important for her. She couldn't do it for herself or her own children, but she could do it for other people, helping to reunite families. We still need that today, man. And we give thanks to Sojourner Truth for everything, claiming her own identity, defining her own identity. She didn't wait for somebody else to tell her who she was. She remembered who the fuck she was and said, okay, let me name myself so I can make sure I remember every time somebody says my name. Every time I say my name, I'm going to remember who the fuck I am. So we give thanks to Sojourner Truth. And so here we come to her wisdom and her medicine for us. One of the pieces of wisdom that I see in her story is that we got to tell the truth and tell the truth that burns down lies. We are surrounded by mis and disinformation. That's such a nice poetic way to say we surrounded by lying ass beat motherfuckers. I gotta just say it the way it is. We are surrounded at the highest offices in this land of the United States, nothing but lies, 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 with a complacent population and a complicit media. Oh, we are surrounded by lies. So we have to be the ones who tell the truth to burn down those lies. He taught us that truth is not passive, it is fire. Even when she was denied education, she spoke with revelation, not hesitation. There was no fear in her using her voice. Message. I'm talking to me. So, how do we use that wisdom about telling the truth so that we burn down lies? Use your story as a weapon against erasure. Tell your story. Let go of shame, guilt, fear, embarrassment, trying to look a certain way, be a certain way. There is medicine in your story. There is medicine in who you are and sharing that story with others. Not in, and I have to say this because people confuse this often. It's not about your ego and sharing a story that makes you look incredible. The best story, the best medicine is sharing your story that shows how you went down into the depths, the dark night of the soul. And maybe you're still in there, but you got enough fire to speak out. And don't wait to get everything right and to say the words. Speak anyway. Your voice is sacred already, and your truth telling is resistance. Let truth be your inheritance, your legacy. Tell the truth. Tell the truth. You on social media, tell the truth and uplift somebody else's truth. So the next piece of wisdom that I see is that she brought forth this idea that womanhood must include all women, especially the ones the world tries to forget. This whitewashed, classist, fragile feminism of her time, of our time. We got to call it out and understand that womanhood is inclusive of all. And we are in unique times now where womanhood, and that's why oftentimes I say women and femmes, can includes trans women as well. We don't get to police that. We don't get to define. I mean, you can have your own opinions about that, but the reality is from a justice perspective, your own opinions and diluted ideas of what Christianity or what God says is right or wrong. I know the God I believe in loves everybody, does not care about those nuances that some humans seem to care about. The God that I look at is all things, male and female. God is not gendered. Why would he, she, they, them care if humans are gendered? All right, getting off topic. But is womanhood is humanhood. So as she called out the whitewashed, fragile feminism, we got to call out all the other things. I guess I just did that. And she redefined womanhood with muscle, memory, and motherhood. All these things that she had to do, that she lived through, that she survived, in her time, and even now would have been classified as masculine things. Well, who the hell else was going to do them? She did what she needed to do. And yes, it's still a woman. White women don't get to tell black women what it means to be a woman. Men don't get to tell women what it means to be a woman. And that is a lot of what we see today, even now, still. But we thank her, we thank Mama Sojourner Truth for understanding and for bringing the clarity that womanhood is inclusive. So what do we do today? How do we take that as medicine? The bottom line is, if it ain't inclusive, it ain't freedom. If Black trans women can't be free, if Black trans women can't be protected, none of us will be. That's the way the spirituality works. That's the way liberation works. The most oppressed of us, the most feared because people don't understand, on whatever other reasons, at that root, if they are well protected, cared for, safe, then there's a path for all of us. So you can't erase labor, you can't erase the spectrum of genders, you can't erase one type or multiple types of experiences of what it means to be a woman in support of one that is deemed respectable. Our medicine is to understand that womanhood is inclusive. And if it ain't inclusive, it ain't freedom. So the next or the last piece of wisdom I'll leave you with from, well, I'm not leaving you with it. Mama Sojourner Truth is leaving you with it, is that liberation isn't granted. You walk into it, you claim it, you take it, or you walk away from whatever is not liberating you, whatever is holding you bondage, the way she did. She didn't wait for a law to set her free. She didn't wait for that enslaver to change his mind and actually do the right thing that he had already promised to do. She walked out in faith. She walked it out. She walked it out. Okay, sorry. Every time I hear walked out, I got to sing that. But she walked it out. She walked out in faith. She carried a baby and she had a mission. Her courage was embodied divinity, embodied theology. She knew who the fuck she was. She knew what she was here to do. She named herself it, and she took the steps to do it. Without a clear plan, idea of what was going to come next, she walked it out. And as she walked, the path was built underneath her feet. That's how a lot of us got to roll. We are in uncertain times. Burying your head and pretending like it doesn't exist is not going to make it any difference. Eyes wide open, walk it out. Know that your liberation, you thought you were liberated, but we still on the path. We still on the continuum from the time Sojourner Truth was in. Time doesn't stop and start again. We're still living in the continuation of that story. Our liberation is still not complete. It's our turn to do our part for our descendants. So the medicine is that your walk is your witness. Walk into your freedom. Walk like you are free. Walk like you are already free. Walk even if the road is unclear. Walk even though you have no idea where the path is leading you. Take the steps. Claim your name, claim your story, claim your calling, and keep walking. Pray to whoever and whatever you pray to for the capacity to walk it out and keep walking. And raise your children with courage, not silence, not get along, go along to get along. Raise your children so that they know what their role is, or at least they will know to have the courage to seek out what their role is in the next stage of this walk towards liberation. Because understand this liberation that we're talking about, I always speak about first and foremost Black women and femmes, and then Black people globally. But what we're really talking about is the liberation of humanity. But oftentimes people have started at these other groups that have some level of privilege, while the oppressed, the poor, the Black and brown, the global souths of the world get neglected. Liberation has to start with the most oppressed of us. Only then can humanity be liberated. And we give thanks to Sojourner Truth, Mama Sojourner Truth. We give thanks for your courage, for your strength, for your power, for your ofo ashe, the power of your words, the energy of your words, to speak truth, to change the course of history, to leave a legacy for us to follow, to understand, to know that we didn't just accept enslavement, and to know that Black women have been present. We've been doing the thing, we've been leading, we've been talking, we've been speaking, we've been traveling, we have been doing this work globally. And yeah, we're tired, but the work isn't done. Take a break, get some rest, take care of yourself, drink some water, get rid of toxic ass people and situations, and know who you are so you can walk the path that you are here to walk. I'm so thankful for you. I'm thankful that you are here to hear this story, to hear and learn about Sojourner Truth, to hear and learn about all the Black women that we cover in our Black Women Are Dope as Fuck series. And if you want to go deeper, I have some links in my bio. I do one-on-one coaching. I'm going to start doing some readings soon. Because, as I'm talking about this medicine to y'all, it's my own ancestors, Sojourner Truth, and all the other women that I've talked about and honored telling me the same thing. I gotta speak my truth and speak the things and do the things and keep offering it up. So anyway, the point is there's links in my bio and in the description box and all the places so you can learn more, whether it's buying either of my books. The first one is a memoir and self-help book, and I go into a lot of my ancestral work with that, talking about the 3 deaths and resuscitations that I experienced, the near-death experience, and what that did for me to unpack my own ancestral mother's traumas. A work still in process. And then most recently, I published an activity book and journal for Black women entitled Remember Who the Fuck You Are. The first book that I mentioned, the memoir and self-help book, was entitled From Fat, Black, and Unlovable to Beautiful, Powerful Love. So both of those are available at my store, shop.beautifulpowerfullove.com, as well as on Amazon. And there's some other items that may be of interest, some other Black Women Are Dope as Fuck items on my shop that may be of interest to you as well. But like I said, if you're interested and want to go further and dig into who you are through various ways, hit me up. My info is in the description box. I would love to support you because all of us got to be on deck for what is in progress and what is to come. But we can do so the way Black women do it, with love, honesty, support for each other, and being dope all at the same time. With that, I thank you. I thank you for being here. I thank you for listening to my voice and helping me to walk out my work and my destiny and being here to receive and witness. Until next time, as always, take good care of you. Peace.